My amulets come from different monks. I've been given them by Buddhist monks. But my cross, which is in here, came from a Buddhist monk who was about 80 years old. If I can take it off, in a small mountain temple. I'd gone there with my wife to look at land, and we put down a deposit on the plot of land, which is on the side of the mountain, and just beneath the temple. Shortly after, the owner died, so I lost my deposit, and we didn't manage to buy the land. But this monk who had lived in this very small temple, he was the only person living in the temple. And so he was about 80 years of age. He spent most of his time sweeping up the leaves and doing repairs. He asked me where I came from, so I told him I was English. And he said he could speak a little bit of English because he'd learnt it at school in Burma, because he was actually originally from Burma, even though he was actually now a monk in northern Thailand, because it's very close, Burma and northern Thailand. He asked me if I was a Christian, and I said, well, that I was actually Buddhist, but I've been brought up as a Christian from childhood. So he said he wanted to show me something. So we went to his room, and he took something out of a drawer, and it was wrapped in kind of a blue cloth, kind of silky blue cloth, a little bit dirty, grubby. But I can still picture it vividly now. Well, inside the cloth was a cross attached to a rosary made of old ivory beads. It didn't have the gold around it at the time, but the thread holding the beads had been retied, so my guess was that it was longer than this, and so some of the beads were missing because there was thread kind of hanging loose. So I think it must have been, because it wouldn't have gone around my neck like that, obviously on my head or anybody's head. So my assumption was that it was originally longer and some of the beads had come away. Well, he then told me a story that I found hard to believe, but I didn't challenge him as he seemed so keen to tell me. He told me he'd never worn the cross because, as far as he was concerned, it was a Christian symbol. But he said he'd been given it by another Buddhist monk in Burma 50 years before, and that this monk had also been given it on the death of a Catholic priest who was a missionary many years before that. Well, that somehow kind of made sense. So he said the monk had told him that the priest had said that the cross was about 2,000 years old. Now, it doesn't take much to work out when that was. That it came from a family in India who'd had it for many generations, and that it originally belonged to some man who was non-Indian, who'd lived there at the time. How it had stayed in the family that long, I don't know, but apparently it did. He said that this man, this non-Indian man, was a very important person at the time, and that he had a reputation for being able to heal people and do some kind of magic. Well, when this man died, the family was responsible for preparing the body for burial and had been given the cross before he was laid to rest. Whether they just took it or not, I don't know, but they received this cross before he was put to rest. After telling me all of this, the monk wrote down the details on a piece of tissue paper, like a kitchen tissue paper, or like a serviette tissue paper. But I could remember the story anyway, but he wrote it down so I could not forget the story. He insisted that I have it to take it away. He then offered me the cross, which I refused. First of all, I'd only met him half an hour before, but he insisted, and he put it in my hand. Well, this was quite some years ago, and I kept the cross at home for many years. And on one of my trips to London to teach university in London. I took it with me, and the university is Birkbeck College, part of the London University, which is very close to the British Museum. So I took both the tissue and this to the British Museum, and queued up, and they have a little window where you kind of go to this doorway. They were very bemused by the story, but they confirmed the cross most likely did come from the Middle East and dated it to around the 1st century. They said it wasn't a crucifix, which I assumed it was. They said it wasn't a crucifix but would probably have been worn by the first Christians. So I felt great about this. This is, wow, fantastic. So anyway, later, because I wanted to wear it, I had the cross framed with gold here in Thailand. And I had the ivory beads rethreaded on silver wire for safety. There we go. I think the beads were probably added to the cross a lot later anyway. I also had a screw clasp there, which you can screw and it just joins together. So I could actually wear it, put it around my head. Can't get it undone now. There you go. Put it around my head, okay. Well, the cross has been very lucky for me. It played a part in the birth of my daughter, which I won't go into details about. But if I wear it, I tend to hide it beneath my clothing, as people in Thailand assume I'm Christian if they see it. And I'm tired of having to explain that I'm actually Buddhist. So along with the Buddhist amulets that I wear, in therapy, I practice animistic kind of shamanic Buddhist therapy as well as psychotherapy. So especially if I'm working with Thai people. So along with my other amulets, I use it for healing people, especially Christians. And there are quite a few Christians in northern Thailand, local Thai people or hill tribe people. And it seems to be very effective. Now, whether the healing is a result of some placebo response or not, I don't know. You know about placebo and psychology and beliefs. I just know it works really well. Now, obviously I tell people the story behind the cross, and that probably does help their belief in the healing. Now, whatever is happening, I don't know. But there's something, definitely something very special about it. So I thought I'd show you that and tell you that story.